It'll be 1 to go this time by. Coming to the green, buddy, coming to the green. Let's go get him. Go, 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 go.
Get your motor running. Head out on the highway.
We're going to go Jeff, Jorge, Gary Long, and then Brian.
Jeff Gluck.
Glad you could show up, Marty.
Jeff Gluck from NASCAR.
Last race of the year. You show up anytime you want to show up, I guess.
Jeff, how will the testing ban change things, change the atmosphere of the sport preseason, as far as not going to Daytona and having that chance to not only get your cars ready for the season on a restrictor plate track and maybe later a mile and a half track, but just the whole atmosphere of the sport, the build up to the 500. How do you anticipate that will change?
I'm shocked that we won't test at Daytona. I always believed even if we had a testing ban, we would test at Daytona because, I don't know, it's always been what we've done, It's going to be interesting. I'm sure that this sport will find a way to step up and fill the void of not having the test, of finding a way to create excitement for the beginning of the year. I'm sure the drivers and car owners in NASCAR will find a way to get together and do something like that. I think that would be in the best interest of our fans to create some energy, to create something going on around the sport. For me personally, I'm a tester. I'm not going to be as bold to say as I like to test, but I respect what testing will give you, and I really, there's something about waking up at 5 in the morning and leaving your house to go work to try to be better that I really enjoy. It gives me the sense of kind of a workman-like attitude. I could be playing golf, but instead I'm gonna work. I tested last year for a month. If you look at the number of days that I tested last year, it takes a month up, and so that's a lot of testing in addition to everything that we do here. I mean, we tested a month, so for me I don't know. I mean, I agree with the policy, but at the same time I'm nervous about it because I think testing makes me better. I think it makes my team better, and I've never done a year without testing. My son, 7 years old, we go test quarter midgets. When I was 8 years old, my father would take me to a go-kart track, and we test for 2 days at the go-kart track. It's what I've always done. So I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be like, but we will, as a sport, have to find a way to create some energy over the winter. And I'm sure we will do that in some form or fashion.
Jorge
Mendaca, FoxSports.com. Jeff, can you talk a little bit about ways that you're seeing Richard Childress Racing try to save money? I mean, obviously we know that a lot of teams are going to be firing people at the end of the year, but what are some of the cost-saving measures that your team has implemented?
Well, I'm not aware of any. I'm aware of some personnel changes, but I'm not aware at Richard Childress Racing of anyone that has been laid off or is going to be laid off in an effort to save money. Now, I will say that as through the expansion of a fourth team, we probably won't hire at the same rate that we would have hired 2 years ago. So we're going to try to become a little more efficient in how we prepare vehicles, try to do things together a little bit more in an effort to save some cost, try to test. When I say test, I'm not talking about track testing, but we do a lot of testing in other forms of fashion. Try to test more efficiently so it benefits all four teams rather than each four team going out and trying to do something by themselves. Quantity of vehicles, how many race cars do you really need? Those kind of things. Richard has pledged to the teams that there's going to be no cuts in regard to performance-related issues, but that there are going to be demands placed on us to become more efficient in how we spend those dollars. So Where we are right now is we're more trying to gain efficiencies to make sure the dollars that we spend are valuable than we are trying to necessarily cut money that we're spending. But again, we aren't going to grow at a rate that we normally would have grown in, considering we're adding a fourth team.
Go ahead, Gary. We'll try to get to as many of you as we can. After Gary, we're going to go to Brian, Dwight, and then we're going to come back to Jim Pedley.
Gary Graves, USA Today. Moving away from testing for a minute, we have some preliminary stats that appears that on-track incidents this year are down about 16% in terms of accident spins, things like that. How much do you think a drop like that, this current model car, would contribute? And do you think part of that is maybe drivers adjusting to this car and, I don't want to say being cautious, but really trying to feel this car out?
To me, it's a very, very interesting thing. The more difficult things become, the less cautions we have. It's kind of counterintuitive. You would think that the worse the conditions are, the more cautions you would have, but it's really the opposite. If you go back and think about Bristol, take Bristol out of the equation, but if you go back and think about the Atlanta spring race, how much we complain about the cars, we didn't have a whole lot of cautions. If you go back and think about, you go back in history and you look at times when the cars become very difficult to drive, the cautions come down. And the only thing I can think of from a driver's perspective is that you have to be so much more focused, and that the edge of control is so much more defined that we have less cautions in adverse conditions. These cars are hard to drive, which, by the way, I think is a good thing. And I think that's it's counterintuitive, but I think that's the reason we have less cautions, is because the cars are actually harder to drive, and it defines the limit. The definition of the limit is much more easy to see.
Brian, you have the last question for Jeff, and then we'll move into Carl.
Hey, Jeff. Brian Nelson with MRN Radio, kind of tucked back here by the table. This new car, how do you grade it after one full year of competition? How do you grade the new car, and do you think there will be a lot of progress, or there still needs to be a lot of progress made to fine-tune the thing? Well,
I think that some teams and drivers have done better jobs with it than others, obviously, and I think that's to be expected. Anytime there's a new product out there, I think some people are going to do it better than others. And by the way, people were doing the old car. Some people were doing the old car better than others. We did see less winners this year than we saw last year. I think that's a product of the car, more in the sense of adapting to the car, and more in the sense of what drivers did the best job, which teams did the best job. I think you're going to see that number spread out more next year as we learn the cars more, as we spend more time with the cars, as the teams that weren't successful are forced to go and figure out how to be successful. They're going to close the gap on the better teams. So I think all those things are going to happen. Considering that we kind of wiped the slate clean and started with a complete new aerodynamic package, chassis package, suspension package, I think the car has been remarkably successful. I know the car has received a lot of criticism. It's true the car is very hard to drive, but that doesn't make it wrong. This is Cup racing. It's the hardest form of motorsports in North America. It's supposed to be hard. If anybody can hop in it and do as well as one of the top drivers, then why do it? It's supposed to be hard. But overall, I think it's been very successful. But I do believe it's going to, as we spend more time with it, it's going to become more successful. That's my honest opinion. It has the ability to create more parity than what we've had, because when you it's just so much less we have the ability to control, and over time I believe that will create more parity. I may be wrong, but that's my belief.
Thank you, Jeff.
Ultimately, before I finish though, ultimately the best drivers and the best teams will always be on top, no matter what the car, no matter what circumstance. There's a reason Carl has won the races he's won. There's a reason Jimmy's won the races he's won. At the end of the day, the cream rises to the top, and no matter what cars you give them.